Hey guys, YouTuber 100 here. Alright, and now continuing the Harry Potter movie reviews with my review of the second movie, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. So, just like the first movie, I'd say once again that this is a pretty good movie. Yeah, yeah, some people have kind of just said this does kind of just have the exact same feel as the first movie, and yeah, it does pretty much just feel like the first movie again. I mean, the movie does kind of feel like pretty like darker than the first one. I mean, it has like a darker plot than the first movie did. But yeah, camera work on this movie, it still looks the same. Like the camera quality for this film and the second film looks just pretty much the same. And yeah, just about everybody involved with the first movie was back. Yeah, I mean, Chris Columbus was back as the director, John Williams was back at the score, and just about all the original cast returned for this. Had Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, Emma Watson, John Cleese, Robbie Coltrane, Warwick Davis, Richard Griffiths, Richard Harris, Alan Rickman, Fiona Shaw, Maggie Smith, Tom Felton, David Bradley. Yeah, you had just about all the original cast returning, and plus you also had a lot of new cast members and characters in this film. Yeah, you could probably say that this film definitely had a larger cast than the first film did. Yeah, in this film, you have like a much larger cast now. There's like Kenneth Branagh, Richard Isaacs. They're and yeah, you also have like some characters that do make bigger appearances here that were in the first movie, but just didn't have as big appearances here. Like Ron's mom, um, like has a bigger role in this. Yeah, we also meet like Ron's dad in this film. And we also see like Ginny, Ron, and the Weasley brothers' younger sister. Yeah, she did make a small appearance in the first movie as they were dropping off the brothers to the train station, but that's all we really saw of her in the previous movie. Here she has a much bigger role here. And we see like a few more different teachers. Like there's, like I said, Gilderoy Lockhart, who was played by Kenneth Branagh, and he's now the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. And I think it's funny for every Harry Potter film, they have a different Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Like no Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher has gone more than one movie. Like they change it each movie. Yeah, and yeah, there's also, as I said, Lucius Malfoy, who is Draco Malfoy's father. We see like Madame Pomfrey, who's kind of like the head nurse for the hospital, and also Professor Sprout, who like runs the greenhouse. And we also see other like new creatures. We see Dobby the house elf. We see like Fawkes the Phoenix. There are some mandrakes that we do like see in this movie during the greenhouse scene, and they're also kind of like play a big part in the to what is like to treat what's going on in at the school in this film. And we also have the basilisk monster, and we see Aragog. Yeah, we see like a lot more creatures in this film as well. Yeah, and as I said, the movie does like it is kind of a darker film than the first one. This movie, like the premise of here is like there's a bunch of attacks going on at the school, and Harry is a suspect as to the one being behind it. Yeah, yeah, but yes, like Dumbledore and the others think that Harry is not the one responsible for it. But like as time goes on, like Harry is seen kind of more as a suspect towards it after like what is discovered about Harry later on. But yeah, and it's eventually revealed like who is really behind the attacks. But yeah, I won't give it away quite yet. I'll wait till I reach the part in the film. But yeah, definitely like a lot like much more characters in this movie as well as like the original cast coming back. Yeah, and there are like some changes here. Like a lot of like the male students, like Harry and Ron, Malfoy, and all of them, they do have deeper voices in this film. It kind of shows like they're growing up. And yeah, as I said, there are like some other changes made around Hogwarts and stuff. And yeah, but yeah, and it is a really good movie. I did like how this film, it actually did come out exactly a year after the first film did. Yeah, this film was released in November 2002, exactly a year after the first movie was. I did like that, and yeah, I really would say, like, when I was growing up, I'd say, like, this one, like, until the last, for a while, this one was, like, my favorite Harry Potter movie. Yeah, because during this time, I'm like, it was before, like some of the other movies that come out, but yeah, for a while, this one was, like, my favorite Harry Potter movie. As I've gotten older, I really don't see it like that anymore. It's not really, like, one, like, my favorite anymore, or was my favorite for like a few movies after this. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I still really do like it. I would say it's probably just as good as the first one. I would give this film probably once again 3.5 stars out of 4. Alright, so yeah, as I said, these are probably going to be long videos, and I'm probably going to have to make this a multi-parter once again, so yeah, let me just start talking about the movie. So the movie opens up with Harry back at the Dursley's house, and he's looking through that photo album that Hagrid gave him at the end of the first movie. And apparently Hedwig is locked in a cage, and keeps making noise. And Uncle Vernon just is telling Harry that if he can't control Hedwig, then Hedwig will have to go. And apparently, like, throughout the entire summer, Harry hasn't received any letters or messages from any of his friends from Hogwarts. And as the Dursleys are getting ready to have some guests here, it's at the house, Harry goes back up to his bedroom, and he meets Dobby the house elf, who apparently showed up in his bedroom. And Dobby was just trying to warn Harry that he shouldn't go back to Hogwarts this year because there's some danger that will take place at Hogwarts that somebody's plotting. And Harry tried to ask Dobby who's actually plotting it, but Dobby couldn't tell him. And then Harry just tried to explain to Dobby that he has to go back to Hogwarts because that's really his home and it's the only place he really has friends. Then Dobby actually did bring up that they haven't been writing to him, and Dobby revealed that he was actually keeping all the letters that have been sent to Harry. And then, like, Harry just chased Dobby downstairs, and then Dobby then just caused a stunt that the Dursleys accused Harry of doing. And so then the Dursleys pretty much just held Harry captive by just locking him in his room and just placing some bars on his window so Harry couldn't escape. But then that night, Ron, Fred, and George showed up in their flying car to rescue Harry, and then, yeah, they were able to pull the bars off of the window, and basically, like, Harry was racing to load up his stuff into the car and escape before the Dursleys could get back into his room, and then, like, Uncle Vernon was able to open up the Harry's bedroom door, or just right when, and Harry was able to get into the car, and Uncle Vernon was trying to pull Harry back in from his leg to stop him from going, but then they eventually just drove off in the car and just sent Uncle Vernon tumbling down to the bush in the yard, and Harry was able to escape. And then Ron, Fred, and George brought Harry back to their house, and their house was basically just completely bewitched. Like, dishes were washing themselves, and needlepoints were knitting themselves, and all that stuff. And Mrs. Weasley then caught Ron, Fred, and George with Harry, and yeah, she got after Ron, Fred, and George for just basically leaving the house in the middle of the night without any notes or anything, but she was happy to see Harry, and she wasn't angry at him for anything. And that morning, as they were having breakfast, like, Harry officially had met Ginny. And yeah, Ginny was just really shocked to see Harry, and yeah, she didn't really say anything to him, and she just ran off. Yeah. And then Ron's dad, Arthur Weasley, then arrived home, and he introduced himself. Well, Harry introduced himself to Ron's dad, and then Miss Molly Weasley, the mom, told Arthur that what Ron, Fred, and George did flew the car that was his to save Harry. And then it was like Arthur was encouraging the boys. He actually asked them how it went. And eventually, like, the Weasley's owl Errol arrived with the mail. It was funny. He just like flew right into the window. And yeah, he arrived with the Weasley's and even Harry's Hogwarts letters, and yeah, they eventually went to Diagon Alley, and yeah, they had a different way of traveling to Diagon Alley than how it was in the first movie. Yeah, they traveled to Diagon Alley by Floo powder, and what that is they were just like standing in the fireplace and have a handful of the Floo powder, and they just say like Diagon Alley and throw the Floo powder down, like just green flames were blazing and basically transporting them to Diagon Alley. And Ron went first to show Harry how it was done, and by doing what I was just saying. And then Harry then went next. But when Harry said his destination, he didn't actually say Diagon Alley, he said Diagon Alley. And then when Harry was transported, he actually landed in like Nocturne Alley, which is kind of like a darker or dodgier place for like magical items. And eventually Hagrid found Harry in Nocturne Alley and he brought him back over to Diagon Alley. And they eventually ran into Hermione, and then Hermione took Harry to Flourish and Blotts, where Harry went back up with the Weasley family. And there showed the Gilderoy Lockhart then showing up for a book signing of his new autobiography, Magical Me. And he saw Harry there, and yeah, he took a picture with Harry for the Daily Prophet. And then he gave Harry like his entire book collection for free. And yeah, Mrs. Weasley told Harry that she would get all of his books signed, and she just had all the kids wait outside. And then, as they were walking away, Malfoy then came and confronted Harry about how he basically can't go anywhere without making a front page. And then his father, Lucius, then arrived, and he introduced himself to Harry. And, yeah, and then he like was recognizing all the other ones. He saw Hermione and then met the Weasleys, and as he was like looking through things that confirming they were the Weasleys, he also pulled out like a secondhand book out of Ginny's Cauldron. And then Arthur came and just confronted Lucius. Yes, and then Lucius then just dropped the book back into Ginny's Cauldron, but Harry also noticed that Lucius dropped another book in along with it. And then they later on arrived at the train station, and then yeah, they all went through the barrier once again. But for some reason, like Ron's parents went before Harry and Ron actually went through. So yeah, kind of a dumb move right there, but anyway. And then yeah, Harry and Ron then attempted to go through the barrier, but it was just like sealed like a brick wall was, and they just ran into it straight up and just fell down. And then just like they ended up missing the train, and so they ended up just taking the car and tried to fly to Hogwarts. And they eventually like went approached the train tracks and tried to find the train. They were actually like hovering over the train tracks trying to find the train. They thought that because yeah, they wanted to catch up with it. But it turned out that they were actually right in front of the train, and then yeah, they were just like spinning out of control. And then like Harry like fell out of the car, but he was hanging from the door. And he was eventually pulled back in, and yeah, they eventually arrived at Hogwarts. But then like the car just ended up like breaking down. And then Ron tried to stop the car with his wand, but his wand just ended up like snapping. And then they landed right into a tree that was known as the Whomping Willow, and apparently it actually had a life, and it was like just bashing the car, just like denting it and shattering the windows and stuff. And the car eventually fell out, but the car then just threw Harry and Ron right out of it and just left. And as Harry and Ron were like about to go to the Great Hall, then they got caught by Filch and seeing that they had arrived late, and took him to Snape, and Snape told Harry and Ron that when they were flying to Hogwarts, at least 7 Muggles spotted them. Basically just telling them that they have risked the exposure of the magical world. Well, yeah, but then Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall showed up, and Dumbledore said that it would be up to Professor McGonagall as head of Gryffindor House to decide Harry and Ron's fate. And she decided, and yeah, she let them stay at Hogwarts and gave them both detention. Then we had the scene at the greenhouse with Professor Sprout, showing the kids how to repot mandrakes, and Hermione was explaining that mandrakes are used to turn people who have been petrified to their original state, but the cry is also fatal to people who hear it. But Professor Sprout told the kids that the mandrakes are just seedlings, so the cries wouldn't kill them yet, but they would be unconscious for several hours. And she gave all of them a pair of earmuffs to protect them from that. And Professor Sprout, sorry, she was just showing the kids how to work with the mandrakes, and then like Neville just ended up like fainting for some reason. And then the kids were all planning their mandrakes, like Malfoy was messing around with his until like the mandrake just bit him. Later on in the Great Hall, Ron was trying to just retape his wand together. Then Harry met a new student, Colin Creevey, who was just kind of like an obsessive fan of him, always taking pictures. And then Ron's Owl Errol arrived at Great Hall for a letter for Ron, and it turned out being a howler. And then, yeah, Ron opened up the howler, and then it then had, like, his mom's voice just yelling at him, and, yeah, the howler was basically just speaking with Ron's mom's voice, and, yeah, Ron's mom was just yelling at him for stealing the car, and told him that his father is now facing an inquiry at work, and it's his fault. Like, during the Defense Against the Dark Arts class, Gilderoy Lockhart was trying to show the kid how to round up Cornish pixies, and he set pixies loose from their cage. And then the pixies just all went crazy, and it caused almost all the students to just bolt from the classroom. And the pixies, like, picked Neville up and just hung him from the chandelier. And then, yeah, Lockhart tried to stop the pixies, but the spell he tried just had no effect. But then Hermione was eventually able to just stop the pixies and got them to freeze in the air. And later on, like, as the Gryffindor Quidditch team was heading to practice, then they were approached by the Slytherin Quidditch team, and yeah, they told Wood that they were given permission to practice by Snape because they need to train their new Seeker, and the new Seeker turned out being Malfoy. Like, and it turned out something else new for Slytherin was the team now had Nimbus 2001s for their broomsticks that were gifts from Malfoy's dad. And Hermione just, like, told Malfoy that Gryffindor actually got in on talent and not by buying themselves in. But then Malfoy responded back by calling Hermione a mudblood. And Ron, like, tried to cast a spell on Malfoy, like, eat slugs, but because of, like, the condition his mom was in, basically just reflected, and Ron got the result of the spell. And, yeah, he basically just ended up, like, puking out a bunch of slugs. And Harry and Hermione took Ron to Hagrid for help. And then, yeah, they explained to Hagrid what Malfoy did call Hermione, and Hermione told Harry what mudblood means. It's just like a name for people that are Muggle-born, and Hagrid just told Harry that the Malfoy family thinks that they're better than other wizarding families because they're pure bloods. And yeah, Hagrid just told Hermione not to think of it at all. And later that night, as Harry was serving detention, he was serving it with Lockhart, just answering his fan mail. And as he was, like, he could just hear a voice speaking, and it was just, like, saying stuff to kill. But apparently only Harry could actually hear the voice. Then he heard it again in the hallway, and then he told Ron and Hermione about it, and then he just was trying to follow the voice. Then he came across the hallway where, like, water was on the floor, and then they spotted some spiders just, like, fleeing. Then they saw a message written on the wall in blood saying that the Chamber of Secrets has been opened and enemies of the air beware. And then they found Filch's cat, Mrs. Norris, in, like, a petrified state. And a bunch of other students all arrived, and they all saw just what happened, and then they were just, like, thinking that Harry was the one who did it. And then Filch arrived, and he thought the same thing, and he saw Mrs. Norris just petrified. and he thought that Harry had murdered her, and he was going to do who knows what to Harry, but Dumbledore then stepped in, and he saw what happened. And then he just sent everybody except Harry, Ron, and Hermione back to the dormitories. And Filch just tried to tell Dumbledore that Harry was the one who did it, but Harry was like saying that he didn't do it. And then Snape then spoke up and said that Harry, Ron, Hermione must have just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. But at the same time, he also didn't remember seeing Harry at dinner. But Lockhart told Snape that Harry was with him, answering his fan mail. And yeah, Hermione was about to then tell Snape about Harry hearing the voices, but then Harry just stepped in and just said that he wasn't hungry and they were just heading back to the common room. And Dumbledore told Filch that they would be able to cure Mrs. Norris with the potions from the mandrakes. And as Harry, Ron, and Hermione were heading back to the common room, Hermione was thinking that it was pretty strange that Mrs. Norris turned out petrified, as Harry was also hearing that voice that only he could hear. But Hermione also told Harry that it's not a good thing when wizards hear voices. That. Then the next day in Transfiguration class, Hermione was asking Professor McGonagall if she could tell them about the Chamber of Secrets. And so Professor McGonagall was telling them that when Hogwarts was first founded by the four greatest witches and wizards, Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Salazar Slytherin, that one of the founders really did not coexist well with the others, and you can probably guess who that is. Yeah, and Salazar Slytherin built a chamber before he actually left the school and then sealed it up, but until the time when his true heir had returned to the school. And apparently, Professor McGonagall was telling the students that the castle had been searched many times, but no chamber had been found. And she was then explaining that legend says that Chamber of Secrets is home to something that only the heir of Slytherin can control, and is the home of a monster. Then Harry, Ron, and Hermione were trying to think of who could have possibly opened the chamber and who would be the heir of Slytherin, and then they thought it could be Malfoy because of how Malfoy feels towards Muggleborns. And Harry and Ron were thinking that maybe they could get Crabbe and Goyle to trick them into telling, but Hermione said that Crabbe and Goyle even aren't that thick. There could be another way. And then Hermione looked in the library and saw something for a polyjuice potion that allows the drinker to transform themselves temporarily into the form of somebody else. And so Harry and Ron then got the idea that if they drink that stuff, they could turn to Crabbe and Goyle, but it would take a month to make. Yeah. And Harry tried to tell Hermione that if Malfoy is the heir of Slytherin, he could attack half of the Muggleborns in the school, but they had no other plan. And then we had a Quidditch match between Gryffindor and Slytherin, and of course, Slytherin was dominating because of their Nimbus 2001s, and they had a 90-30 lead over Gryffindor. And during the match, there was a bludger that was specifically targeting Harry, and the bludger just ended up just chasing Harry all around the Quidditch field, which was referred to as a rogue bludger. And then Harry and Malfoy both spotted the snitch and both went after it. First Malfoy, of course, since his broom was faster, was further ahead trying to catch it, but eventually Harry was able to pass by Malfoy, and the bludger was still going after Harry. Then eventually Harry and Malfoy were just neck and neck, with the bludger still going after Harry. And then Malfoy's broom just all of a sudden hit a piece of wood, and Malfoy just went flying and falling off of his broom. Then Harry tried to reach up for the golden snitch again, but then the bludger came and hit Harry's arm and supposedly breaking it. Then Harry tried to use his other arm to reach out for the snitch, and yeah, he ended up catching it, but he also ended up falling off of his broom down to the ground. But yeah, Harry in the end did catch the snitch, and Gryffindor won the match. And then the bludger was still trying to go after Harry, but Hermione then eventually just destroyed the bludger. And then Harry was then telling Hermione, Ron, and Hagrid that he thinks his arm was broken. And then Lockhart stepped in and he tried to fix Harry's arm, and then he cast a spell to Harry's arm, and then it just ended up like making all the bones in Harry's arm just disappear. And that night, Harry spent the night in the hospital while being treated for his bones. Then he heard the voice once again, and then Dobby then appeared. And then, yeah, Dobby revealed that he was the one that sealed the barrier and also made the bludger chase after Harry. And then, yeah, Harry just asked Dobby why he wears what he does, and Dobby just said that what he was wearing is part of the house elf's enslavement, and he can only be freed if his master presents him with clothes. Then Dobby just told Harry that terrible things are about to happen and history is about to repeat itself. And then, yeah, Harry just asked when it happened before, and who is actually behind it now, and Dobby just didn't say, and he just disappeared. Then, like, Harry listened in to, like, the teachers then grabbing Colin, and now Colin had ended up being petrified. And then Dumbledore just told the other McGonagall that now the chamber has, in fact, been opened again. Alright, and yeah, it's like getting around to the time limit for this video, so I'm just gonna cut this off and then start the second part. So, yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, the second part will be here in just a minute.